the perfect storm of a lot of hype, but it lived up to it.
That's it, yeah, and that's like what's been going on. Like I mean, Destiny, I think they did the same thing, and like Destiny is similar. Destiny soundtrack is fucking really good as well, actually. It's kind of weird, and it kind of sounds a little bit similar to the Halo thing, but it's just not really as. It didn't take up, but then again, Halo came out at a time when all the online gaming was new for people, and as well, no one really did anything that cinematic at all, I think, before, especially with a first-person shooter, because normally it was like, you don't need stories or kind of like a realized world for it, just like fucking kill people. And then it was like, no, they're trying to create a universe, which, well, they did create a universe. Of course, one of the big ones that it's fucking just stares everyone in the face is the Elder Scrolls.
Of course, yeah. Like that is to this day going to be one of my like all-time favorite games. But like, it's just a really nice kind of fantasy soundtrack. But that opening song, like, I think Skyrim went up a couple points in my opinion, just because it had a reimagined, like, kind of harder version of the Morrowind team, which was the first Elder Scrolls game I got into.
But as well, the whole fucking kind of like, intro to Skyrim was so massive. Like, I mean, there was people covering it on YouTube. Like, I mean, there must be people that never played the game that know the song. It must be up there with Game of Thrones fucking introduction, or at least it was at one stage. With things.
Come it for us.
Dover couldn't.
One game that I probably put about 50 hours into, which was like definitely the pinnacle of my gaming, was Bully. I don't know if any of you really remember it. It was, for me, I played it on the Wii, and I loved that soundtrack. It was just kind of jazzy and a bit like upbeat, but it was quite like mad. I absolutely loved Bully, and I just had a little look there, and apparently it was nominated for an award.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But I really did love that soundtrack, because it was kind of it was different depending on what was happening. So if he was like being good and not like, kind of following the rules and stuff, it would be more upbeat. Whereas if it wasn't, then it would follow the mood of the game.
Okay.
So depending on what your choices were.
Was it kind of orchestral or?
It was just more kind of, there weren't really a lot of words in the music. In Bully, it was very much instrumental, I suppose, but it was very kind of jazzy and upbeat, or it was very kind of low and very kind of bassy.
Well, that's a Rockstar kind of like well known for their soundtracks. So like the Grand Theft Auto soundtracks have to be kind of say for artists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The big ones out there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, fucking like some of the early Grand Theft Auto games, the amount of songs.
The ability to tune into different radio stations is just phenomenal. It's super concept.
Yeah. But the song choices were like on the money as well.
Definitely.
So many artists are going to be really happy when they get to the point where like they get licensed for that, because they're like, you're going to have so many people following. Because I don't know about you guys, but when like from like Vice City would be still my favorite, like Grand Theft Auto for soundtrack anyway. So much so that I remember seeing that for a while they were actually you could buy physical copies of the soundtracks which was the licensed music, but also with the radio stuff done into it, which was really cool. I was going to get that at one stage. I didn't in the end, but what I really like is every time I play one of the Grand Theft Auto games, I'll always come out of it with a couple of songs that I never even heard of before, but I'm like, oh, these are actually really good songs now that end up in my rotation at some degree.
Nice.
But there was like a lot of songs I remember listening to on Grand Theft Auto.
That's the thing, when you had the different themed radio stations.
Yeah. Stuff that I wouldn't have really listened to before. I suppose one that's really, really obvious as well, kind of like the Rock Band and the Guitar Hero soundtracks.
Yeah.
They had like great selection, but as well, similar to the Grand Theft Auto one, I think what introduced a whole generation into different metal bands that they probably would never have listened to was Tony Hawk's Skateboarder.
Oh,
games.
definitely, yeah.
Rock bands and also kind of your punk bands, and to a lesser degree now, I think, because I just don't think the actual console ones had the license. I think it was only the arcade ones when I was looking it up. but Crazy Taxi had a lot of punk songs and whatnot.
God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
You never heard of it?
Never.
I remember playing it a lot, like in like arcades as a kid, and you just had like such like even when it wasn't in use, it'd have like just music playing off it, and you just it kind of entice you, like, what's that?
You'd want to go over to it.
It was just kind of like it had like these really upbeat like songs from The Offspring and whatnot. So it's really good.
But you know something that sort of just always reminds me of a certain era in our life because you just played it non-fucking stuff was Tiger Woods golf.
Oh yeah, Tiger Woods. There was
You're gonna make me lose my mind.
It didn't. It was it was like this kind of what was it? This was DMX, I think, or something like that.
Ridiculous.
But it was it just came on every time you started the game. They had like the worst music. Well, at the time it was the worst music in the world for me. But I ended up quite liking a lot of the rap songs on it.
Yeah,
because I was just brainwashed
so fucking often. Yeah, just got watched by it.
We were the same now. Back in like 2008, we used to play Rock Band. And like we take it really seriously, which was a bit sad to be fair. But like I really liked a lot of music.
Nothing sad about taking it seriously. We took Rock Band very seriously as well.
Looking back at it now, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have taken it quite so seriously. But I was a drummer, and I used to like really take it very seriously.
With your cock out.
I always liked I always got into the Rock Band and Guitar Hero, especially Rock Band, less so Guitar Hero, but I like both of them.
So much fun.
But I suppose we'd be kind of remiss in not shouting out also like those rhythm games like Dance Dance Revolution and all that. They would have been ones that like would get like people into just so many like kind of songs that they would never hear before. Now they probably wouldn't be songs that would be up any of your alleys, but it still goes out saying that they deserve a shout out.
Definitely.
No, in fairness, like I mean, there was it was not Rock Band, but there was some like pop star
Sing, I think, or something like that. Was it?
Star or something like that.
Remember there was also DJ Hero.
Oh yeah, that didn't last at all, did it? I think it was.
No,
I don't know.
That was very shortly.
I think that was at their height. They were like, "Can we do other things?" It's like, no. We hit the struck gold, the first one, and everything around this is just shit.
Yeah. But no, there was a resurgence in the whole Rock Band thing. There was a lot of bands that I ended up getting into because there was one song and I was kind of like, I've never heard of this band before. And I was like, actually,
I think it was the first time I heard of Five Finger Death Punch. They were like nobodies at that stage,
true,
and it was like, well, these aren't too bad.
And then you listen to go, actually, they are. Yeah. There was one song that was okay.
It's the musical equivalent of a tramp.
Good description. But actually, just I meant to mention, you just brought it up there as well. Hotline Miami.
It went through a period there a couple of years ago where I've never played it, but I listened to the soundtrack to Crypt of the Necro Dancer. That's got some fucking tunes on that, some banging tunes, boy. Which kind of like, I think it was the soundtrack sold that game more so, but it was like Hotline Miami.
That was fucking awesome. Banging soundtrack, as you said. I mean, like
amazing kind of like dance.
Spells Moon.
Yeah.
But that introduced me to Moon and to Perturbator, and the two of them are fucking absolute fucking
Perturbator
monsters.
Is probably one of my favorite artists.
Really, really good.
Because like he's synthwave, but he basically makes soundtracks to movies that don't exist.
Yeah. At
some stage, we'll end up talking about Perturbator a lot.
Yeah.
And getting into a lot of his stuff. He's like he's after getting so much bigger now. And like at that stage, he probably, I don't know how well known he would have been that well known. None of them really were, I suppose.
But the biggest known, I suppose, track off that probably would be the one that's associated with it, which of course would be Hydrogen from Moon.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably sort of the one that everyone associates with it. It's just that sort of drive and fucking grind.
But it fits the game so well. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think the evolution of soundtracks, it went from kind of like, say, with Mario with that 8-bit thing. And recently I decided I was going to start doing some samples from Amstrad games and try and make songs from it. And like, some of the music is actually all right. Like, some of it sounds like Barbarian. None of you remember this. You wouldn't have even been born when this game was out. But it was kind of like Amstrad and kind of like Spectrum's version of Conan the Barbarian. And they tried to get that kind of like
raw,
Barbarian music, and it's actually kind of good for 8-bit stuff. But a lot of games they didn't have the memory to have music playing when the game was playing at that stage. But then some of them did, And then, like, when you get into Sega and Nintendo, that was when soundtracks, I think, started coming into their own. So, like, of course, Mario was massive. But, like, everyone knows
Sega
Mario.
as well, especially in Sonic as well.
Yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog thing was, but one of the things I went listen, but I used to love it, the soundtrack to Streets of Rage 2. If any people look it up, it's fucking, like, it's techno before there was techno. It's a mental fucking some of the stuff, but like, a lot of
I think it goes back to what you were saying, and like like when you get a good soundtrack, like something that actually has a decent core to it, it just kind of embeds into you as you play the game. So it almost becomes a way of like traveling back to that time and going back. So there's always going to be like this nostalgic like, vein in you for these ones. Like one that, like, even though I don't play it as much anymore, one that still would, like, to this day, kind of just take me back to when I was playing and all that, would be like the World of Warcraft soundtrack, because I played an immense amount of World of Warcraft. Some would say an unhealthy amount of World of Warcraft.
Would say
as reflected by your exams at the time.
So I've never seen you play that much video games yet.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I think he might have
like.
burned himself out when he was playing it for like 48 hours in a day.
Well, I've seen him play like the latest Pokemon and
Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yes.
It's the last time I got really into a game. That one doesn't have a great soundtrack now. It's okay. It's nothing to fucking write home about, so I'm not going to go into it too much since this is a music one and not really a gaming podcast. But yeah.
But I can't for the life of me think of it. I played so much of World of Warcraft, I can't think of the music.
Really?
To it, yeah.
Like, it's just it's just like certain ones like that I would have heard constantly, like when you went to Stormwind, that orchestral just kind of roar that would come in when you kind of would enter through there. It just takes me back each time. And some of the raids and instances, especially like the Karazhan dungeon, or sorry, Karazhan raid, would be just one that there's certain kind of songs and soundtracks that are ingrained in my mind, partially because they were good in and of themselves, but also because you were hearing them so often because you were up against one boss and you might be there for 5 hours for like 6 days in a row before you figure out the routine to kill him. So that kind of takes you back to just all this suffering and pain, and you're just like, why can't I kill you? Why do you keep electric charging me?
That's a CIA have you kind of like prone. You'll hear that music someday when you're walking down, you go, I must kill the queen. I know that I need to have 4 health potions with me and someone to tank on her security guards while I shoot them from a distance.
I'll faint death when I pull too much aggro, and then I'll reset the aggro.
Leroy Jenkins. But it's the Final Fantasy series. Like the entire Final Fantasy series, that's like fucking epic soundtrack music. I think. And like when you go back to, I haven't played a remake of Final Fantasy 7 yet, but like with Final Fantasy 7, the music played a dramatic, but everyone kind of had their own theme tune. Like Sephiroth, when he'd show up, was like real kind of this drone kind of music. And when Ares was around, it was all kind of like
Wayne's mouth.
Pretty sure I get it though now, Wayne has given us an example.
The composer of our latest soundtrack died halfway through. Can you finish it off with your mouth box?
You see, I'm kind of hoping that maybe enough people will listen to this and they'll challenge the laws on people being allowed to play audio clips.
Sing it with my mouth.
Oh God, it's so painful. Please, just let him play actual clips from it. God, please, we'll give you anything.
Anything? I'm just looking at a list here on Classic FM.
What?
But they have like The Legend of Zelda. I'm totally like, I suppose the Wind Wanker would be up there.
Yes, the Wind Wanker. Yes, as it's commonly known.
Yeah, that's definitely its name.
Yes.
Yeah.
As Jen said previously, she doesn't have a lot of gaming, so she's just giving me a confused look.
Is that an actual thing?
No.
Yeah.
Wind Wanker, yes. That's what it's called officially.
I mean, probably it's a thing, probably like a fan fiction done by a really pent up teenager. Then Link pulled out his sword, and it was a big sword.
And the little fucking thing went, "Hey, listen."
Yeah, and then he's
Listen.
like, I'm just gonna.
All I'm getting is pictures of Link from.
Yeah.
You
That's
probably
it.
shouldn't Google that.
No, but like it's just Link.
Wind wanker.
It's just Link.
Yeah, that's because you have safe